Welcome members and members of the public to the first meeting of the Economy Regeneration Development Committee. My name is Councillor Anita Leech and I'm the chair of this committee. I would like to make you aware that this meeting will be webcast and I will just read a statement to you about the webcasting. This meeting will be webcast and a record retained on the council website. For those at home viewing the webcast, I would like to inform you that if you look above the video, you will see a resource tab. Select this and a link to the agenda will appear in the right-hand side. This will allow you to open the agenda in PDF form and to follow the discussions and debate. Can I remind members to turn their camera and microphone on during the roll call, which will be carried out by the Director of Law and Governance, Phil McCourt, and to turn them off at all other times unless I am bringing you in to speak. This will assist with the smooth running of the committee. If you do want to ask a question, please use the chat bar to indicate and I will endeavour to call you in order to ask your question or to make a comment. Mr McCourt, can you please carry out the roll call?
Yes, Chair. Councillor Bird.
Good evening.
Councillor Burgess-Joyce.
Good evening, Phil.
Councillor Gardner.
Good evening.
Councillor Hayes.
Good evening.
Councillor Hodson.
Good evening.
Councillor Jones.
Good evening, Phil, Chair.
Councillor Mitchell.
Good evening.
Councillor Stapleton.
Good evening.
And Councillor Wood.
Good evening.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Phil. I'm not aware of any apologies for absence. Have we had any apologies at all? No? Okay, do members have any declarations of interest? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Just declare an interest as a member of the Wirral Growth Company. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any other declarations of interest? Okay. Okay, moving on to agenda item 4, public questions. I'm not aware of any public questions.
There are none, Chair.
Thank you. 4B, statements or petitions. I'm not aware of any.
No, Chair.
Thank you. And 4C, members' questions. I'm not aware of any.
No, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. So if we move on to agenda item 5, and if I can call on the Director, Alan Evans, Director of Regeneration Place, Alan Evans, can you present this report, please, Alan?
Of course, Chair. Good evening, members. This report just sets out the process for budget setting for 2021-22. So it's an update on the Council's current budget position. There was an all-members briefing in early October to set out and highlighted the current budget deficit for this year, moving into next year. And there was also a report taken to Policy and Resources on the 7th of October. What this report does set out is the process for the budget setting within this transition year. So this is a transition year moving from the old system of cabinet and scrutiny into this year's committee system. So there is an unusual circumstance given timing during the municipal year that we are presenting budget proposals as officers through workshops to members of the committee. And although we are inviting members of the committee to come forward with their own proposals and officers will work with them. This is an unusual process, so this won't be the arrangement we have in place next year, when throughout the year we'll be looking at budget setting and including members in those discussions from the outset to be able to bring forward proposals as we would do in standard moving forward. So we are going to sorry, there was a background noise there. So we are going to go through a series of workshops which set out to members how the budget in regeneration places is worked up, and then we will be looking at, as I said, inviting proposals and recommendations from members themselves. Members of the committee are also asked to note the current council position in respect of the budget deficit, which is set out in 3.4. It sets out how that budget deficit is made up and how COVID has impacted in this financial year, and then what monies have been received to date to offset those pressures. Paragraph 3.6 sets out the current mitigations, and specifically that the council is working with MHCLG to look at a capitalisation directive with Treasury, which would enable the council to borrow to address the financial deficit for this year and potentially in 2021 and 2022 as well. The report sets out a number of phases which the council is moving into now. So number one is immediate action, so a review of planned savings for this year, and then a review of reserves and a number of other actions as well. There will also be directorate proposals, which I referred to, which will then come forward in a series of budget workshops for members. There's a categorisation of those proposals as well, so whether or not those savings will be in statutory services, proposals to save money within those statutory services, or whether they be non-statutory. And then in terms of the corporate challenge, we are looking at a number of things, including contracts, which may be of interest to this committee, and also assets, which falls under the remit of this committee as well. A contingency plan is also set out that if we can't make the budget balance with the other actions which I've just outlined, we'll be looking at reductions within services of 5%, 10% and 15%, but that is contingency at the moment.
Alan, can I just stop you for a second, please? Vicky, come in. Yeah, it is.
I've been trying 10 minutes to get rid of that.
Thanks, Vicky. Sorry to interrupt, Alan.
Yeah, apologies.
No problem. Alan, would you like to continue, please?
Thanks, Chair. So just to finish on the report really, so section 4 sets out the process now for moving forward and also the time frame. So this is an update position statement for members of the committee on how we will be moving forward on our transition budget for next year. In November. Sorry, some feedback. So November will update the committee on that, and then moving forward to public consultation in December, January. Is everybody else receiving feedback, or is it just me? Apologies.
Yeah, we are.
Yes.
If members could turn their microphones off, please, that sometimes helps.
Thanks, committee members. So then January, we will find out what our funding settlement is from government, and then that will be recommendations to full council in February for next year's budget. So on that, Chair, I can take any questions, and we've also got a member of the finance team if there's any questions on the corporate budget process as well.
Thank you, Alan. Are there any questions from members or comments? Councillor Bird?
Thank you, Alan, for that presentation and the paper. Just like to note that the Chancellor of the Exchequer promised to offer councils whatever it takes to deal with the coronavirus impacts, and but that hasn't happened, which leaves us with a very difficult position to be in. I hope that the settlement that you said we're expecting in January goes a long way to rectify that. We would not like to see any compulsory redundancies in the budget proposals, and I'm also looking forward to receiving the budget breakdown in terms of what's statutory, what's non-statutory, and also revenue and capital budgets. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bird. Are there any other comments or questions? Councillor Hodson. Councillor Hodson, did you have your hand up?
Chair, I think Councillor Jones has got his hand up. I'm not sure if that was...
With regard to the comments by Councillor Bird, we don't want to make this political, but can we stick to fact? Because we all know what money's been received by the Wirral over the COVID. To say we've had nothing is ridiculous.
I did not say that nothing had been received. I said that the Chancellor promised to provide whatever it takes.
Okay, is there somebody else who's got their hand up? Because I can't see a hand up.
No hands up, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I'll move on to the recommendation then, if I may, so that the committee note that the Council's current financial position and process for the 2021 budget is in the transition year. Are we happy to note that by assent?
Assent.
Thank you very much, committee. If we can move on to agenda item 6, which is Alan Evans, it's back to you again. If we look at the budget performance monitoring, which is in pages 11 to 13 of your packs, members. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. So this report just updates committee members on the proposals for committees to receive performance management and budget information moving forward. As we're in the new committee system, we're intending to work with members as officers to get to a point where we can present the most up-to-date and robust performance management information. We anticipate that the framework that will be used to report against will be similar to the one we used during the COVID-19 process, which was very well received by members, by group leaders and by stakeholders from outside of the organisation as well, in terms of the Council's performance against our priorities during that time. In terms of we're presenting that, then we want to be able to have an interactive performance, so it's not just statistics and data, but it is actual real-time performance about how the Council's performing. There is an item on the work programme, which we'll come on to on the next item, around economic recovery, which will come to the next committee, which I anticipate will then be used to set out some measures against economic performance in particular for this committee moving forward. In terms of the recommendations that members, we're asking members to note the proposals outlined and continue to work with us on the framework through November. And my final point to members is that I would like to get into that performance framework an economic snapshot. So we do use a lot of information within the Regeneration department in terms of what's happening in the economy. A lot of that data is time lagged, so it goes back to what happened in 2018 or 2019, so we do need to get an up-to-date performance framework which allows committee to keep an eye on what's going on, particularly with the current restrictions and what's going on in terms of the business community at the moment, and what the Council's doing to continue to help businesses and residents in that regard. But that's all from me, Chair, if I want to take any questions.
Thank you, Alan. Are there any questions or comments from committee? Okay, I'll move to the recommendation. The recommendation is that members note the proposals outlined in the report for shaping future performance monitoring reports, and that further discussions take place with the committee chair and group spokespersons in early November so that they can shape monitoring reports for the purpose of the committee. Have a mover for that, please.
I'll move that, Chair. Andrew Hodson.
Thank you.
I'm happy to second, Chair.
Thank you.
Steve Hayes.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Members, are we happy to take that by assent?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you, members. If we can now move on to agenda item 7, which is pages 15 to 22 of your pack, and that's the Economy, Regeneration and Development Committee Work Programme update. This programme is within your packs and you will have seen it. It's from the old environment, the old business committee. There's a lot of items which were on the forward plan which have been carried forward to this committee, and the basically what we're asking is members are invited to note and comment on the proposed Economy, Regeneration and Development Committee work programme for the remainder of 2020-21 municipal year. But are there any comments or that people would like to make on this? Okay, Councillor Jones.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Just one comment. I'd like to see included in the work programme environmental considerations and any overarching issues associated with those environmental considerations, but environmental considerations within the remit of the Economy, Regeneration and Development Committee, specifically with relation to regen and not necessarily to other committee briefs, which will include housing and transport. So I'd like to see that that particular issue be included in with our work programme, because I think it has a natural sit with regeneration. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Jones. Councillor Bird.
Thanks. Yes, similarly, as well as environmental benefits, I'd like to see social benefits included in the work programme around the council's community wealth building policies. How are we going to ensure that it's good quality local jobs that are developed, skills development, and also procurement, how to make sure that it's locally owned firms that are, where possible, benefiting from the council's procurement processes. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Wood, you have a comment as well.
Yes, I'd like to see that we have a work stream looking at future energy scenarios in all the developments, given that there's going to be changes brought forward under Ofgem recommendations. So I'd like to see that we do include energy and future energy scenarios.
Thanks, Councillor Wood. Alan, would you like to come back on any of those points?
Thanks, Chair. So as committee members will know, there's a number of those themes which already run through a lot of our regeneration proposals, which will be brought to committee over the course of the next 6 to 9 months. So I'll make sure those are included now in the work programme, and we do have a particular focus on those issues now at future committees.
Thanks, Alan. And just to add to that, really, a lot of these, the points that have been raised this evening are linked to the local plan as well. And there's a lot of different aspects of work have been done in terms of that, those matters as well. Thank you. Okay, if there aren't any other comments, are we happy to note the recommendation of members are invited to note and comment on the proposed Economy, Regeneration and Development Committee work programme for the remainder of 2021 municipal year? Okay, are we happy to take that by assent?
Yes.
Agreed. Agreed.
Thank you. Okay, members, there is an exempt item this evening, which is Hine Street collaboration agreement, which is on pages 25 to 30 of the agenda pack. The recommendation under section 100A4 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting during consideration of the following items of business on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined by paragraph 3 of part 1 of schedule 12A as amended to the Act. The public interest test has been applied and favours exclusion. Now I would need a mover and a seconder for that to go into an exempt item. And Councillor Bird, I can see you have your hand up.
Obviously, it There is a time and a place where matters do have to be exempt, and there are commercially sensitive matters or matters that might adversely affect the council, but it should be rarely used. And I'd like to know what kind of exempt information might be disclosed here, or basically just more information about why all of the entire item should be considered to be exempt. Thank you.
Phil, is that something that you'd like to come back on?
It is, Chair. It is, as Councillor Bird says, we do, as officers putting reports to you, do our utmost to write reports in such a way that the whole of the report can be in the public arena. That's the direction we have from the Constitution and from you as members. Until this point, all of the reports that have had exempt elements to them have nearly always had a front-facing report that's in the public domain and then refers to exempt information. However, as rare as it is, there are those occasions when the council's business affairs and the business affairs of other persons should not be put into the public domain in any shape or form, because that in itself will alert people to the negotiations that the council is having and can damage the council's business position, because the exemption refers to the business affairs of any person, and that person can include the authority itself, and that's the paragraph referred to here.
Thank you, Phil. I see Steve Hayes had his hand up as well. Steve, would you like to come in?
No, it's okay. I was just happy to move, actually. I thought you were going to...
Okay, so I'll take you as moving that we're going to exempt. Do I have a seconder at all? Councillor Wood?
I'm happy to second it.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Can I take that by assent or members?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. There's no objections. That's great. Thank you. Okay. Well, we will now have to stop the webcast for the general public. So we'll just hang on for a minute or so while we stop that web